before I start, can we just give one more round of applause to the whole awesome crew at the Wild Center who spent months organizing this? So give it up for the Wild Center again, please. Okay. And this stuff, all these banners, I can tell you they weren't here yesterday. They were up here late last night or early this morning. And this place is awesome. We have not just this banners, but this. The TEDxTupper Lake logo. I kind of feel like I'm in the internet right now. But it's just so amazing. But also this right here. Right here, the iconic red circle rug. It's about 4 feet around. It's got this really lovely texture to it. I feel really comfortable up here. It's pretty safe. And if you've ever watched a TED Talk video, you'll see this circle. And I watched a lot of them before today just to figure out what the vibe was of a TED Talk. And kind of what I noticed was that most people stayed inside the circle the whole time. So I kind of wondered, is there a rule about that? Do I have to stay in the circle the whole time? And, Google searching, internet stuff. And I ended up on the TED website, eventually, the actual source of information, and I didn't find a rule. It's more just kind of like a best practice, cultural expectation thing that I will stay inside the circle during my talk. But that kind of causes a problem. My entire talk is to tell you that you're supposed to step outside your comfort zone. So I don't really think I'm supposed to stay inside the circle and then tell you to step outside the circle. That would just be it wouldn't make any sense at all. So here we go. And now the great thing is, too, that was a very small perspective, and there was no way I can understand what this side of the stage felt like. It's totally different over here. It's unknown, it's dark, it's a hidden spot. And I also could not guess what these people were experiencing, or you right here. I mean, I had no idea what it felt like to be in this spot and look over there. So I have now kind of done a little exploration. I've gained some new perspectives and knowledge, and I am going to wander back up to this circle because that helps the tech crew, and also because it is comfortable, and I like it here. It's my comfort zone. But we can't always stay inside our comfort zone. I mean, I believe that best practices should always be questioned. How do we know if they're best practices unless we're interrogating them? I believe that the curious shall be rewarded and that you have to take a risk sometimes to go out and figure out what's going on. And I also believe that curiosity is the key that can unlock our ability to step outside our ideological comfort zones, not just things that we're experience-based, but how we actually think, what beliefs we have. And it's curiosity that pulls you out of where you are. Because if I just stay inside here, I'm not connecting with any of you out there. I'm not connecting to other experiences that are out there. Now, our comfort zones are not an actual physical thing, but if they were, they would look pretty much just like a tree. And you are a tree, if you think about it. So when a tree is growing, it starts off as this delicate, tiny little sapling, and it's just a little thin thing. That's that ring right there in the middle. But then every season the tree grows, it expands, it adds a layer, it becomes stronger. And what the great thing about the rings on these trees is that it doesn't just tell us how old the tree is. It actually tells us kind of the history of experiences the tree had. When you see the larger growth rings up here, that means that was a more plentiful year for resources for that tree, and it grew a lot. And then if you see the tighter rings, it had to struggle a bit, and it didn't grow quite as much. And it's the same thing for us. So as a person, here's my comfort zone, and I step outside of it. I have a new experience. I meet a new person. I add a growth ring to myself, and that's what you're all doing too. And some of the experiences are more profound and larger than others. And that is how we grow. We don't grow by staying safe inside what we think now. We have to keep going out and exploring. Also, we have not just us, but an entire cultural society thing happening in the world. You might have heard about it. And let's pretend that now this circle is the norms and the cultural expectations of our current culture. And in this current culture of past state America, women do not have the right to vote. And so I'm in here as a part of society. There's a lot of us, and we're hanging out in this safe zone of our ideas because it's working for us. But I'm starting to kind of look outside over to where those people were, and maybe I see that there's different ideas. So I'm moving a little bit closer, I'm thinking about it. But I started to encounter this edge here. And right along this edge is where that cognitive dissonance kicks in really hardcore. And you have two ideas, and you are not sure. Because right in here in the circle, this is your family, your friends, your community. And they're telling you, no, you gotta stay in the circle. Because those people out there, they're crazy and they're radicals, and they're gonna undo everything we've worked so hard to make. Boy, you just get a little closer. And then you kind of, eventually, you have to leave where you are comfortable. And I'm gonna go over to this group of people, and we have some talks, maybe some debates. They're giving me information about why women should be voting, and I'm listening to them, and we're having some potluck dinners and the things you do when you're meeting people. And so I've got these ideas now. I'm like, oh, that's actually kind of something I believe in. So I can go back to the circle now of culture, and I step back in. I'm like, yo, guys, everyone check this out. There's actually a lot of good ideas I have about women having the right to vote. And the people in here are like, no, that's not a good idea at all. We should definitely not do that. And then it's like, we all just start to churn and talk and debate. And after years and years of struggle and sacrifice, we now have that right to vote for people. And so, yes. But remember, that was normal. That was what is acceptable. It was unacceptable to leave that circle and think of that as an idea. And the same thing happened with laws enforcing racial segregation. There's so many things you can think about where we're staying safe in our ideas and culture, and we're calling the people out there crazy and radical, and they're going to destroy everything. But now we've actually grown. So if I just go backwards here in time, I think that's an option. Maybe it is. Yes, thank you. So if this is our culture now, it's not just one person, it's a bunch of us, and we've grown and grown and grown. And just like a tree, we can become stronger as a society by leaving the comfort zone and, getting out there and doing things. So now we're just going to take a little break and kind of meander to the left or the right over here. Which side? I don't know. There's too many sides. There's only one or two. But that's another thing, too. Like right now, we have left and right, and I'm being pulled back and forth between the two. But why isn't there an idea over there in that corner? Or an idea there in that corner? Like, why isn't there some group that I can gravitate towards that meets more who I am as a person, or you are as a person? Well, those are questions you can ask with your curiosity. And that's what we're talking about today is curiosity. It's not like, I'm curious what avocado ice cream tastes like, so I'm going to try avocado ice cream. That's awesome. But it's really about being curious to question the current systems and norms that we just take for granted, like they're oxygen. We don't question them. But think of the things that everyone questioned in the past so we can have this now, for real. So sometimes you've got people a little bit locked in their comfort zone, and that's all right because comfort zones exist for a reason. Things have happened in your life. You've had experiences. You've got to feel secure and safe, but you've got to leave it sometimes too. So here's a little story about a place my partner and I built. It's out in the woods, the Adirondacks. It's in a tiny little hamlet called Onchiota. And there's not much else around Onchiota. It is a place people come to go hiking and biking and paddling. It's a really beautiful place. And this building that we got used to be a grocery store, and it was a post office, and a few other things. It was basically the cultural meeting place back when this area was banging with like sawmills, and there was all kinds of sanatoriums happening, and people were there. It was an IGA grocery store. It's where people came to get their supplies, but more importantly, they came to hang out, and they shared ideas, and they met people, and they found out what was going on. So we have the station here, and actually, appropriately, what we do at the station is if you've been to a grocery store and there's someone offering you a free sample of food you haven't tried, We're just doing that, but with experiences instead of food. So every summer, we have these events that are called summer sessions. And we bring in musicians and artists, and they're like a big weekend-long party, that we have open for everyone. It's free. And so if you're driving down this empty road, it's just trees and trees and trees, you might come across this. This is an invitation. The sign on the front of the station says, "The curious shall be rewarded." When people ask us what that means, it's like a different answer every time. But basically, I'll just point and say, well, you get to see this art, or you get to see this band, or whatever it might be. That's your reward. You are growing somehow. So summer sessions are kind of an invitation for people to come meet people they maybe know, but more importantly, they don't know. There's a large public campsite down the road. People come from Canada and all over. They're camping. And it's just this chance to mix up all kinds of ideological people with all kinds of outdoor people, and we make it a fun time. And it looks kind of like your typical farmer's market or an arts and crafts festival. But what we've actually tried to do is take all the events you typically see at a farmer's market or arts and crafts festival, and we would just reimagine them and make them a little more creative or different. But also, this is a really fun thing we do, and this is called the Invisible Creatures Petting Zoo. So the Invisible Creatures Petting Zoo is our play on what a petting zoo would be. If you go to your regular farmer's market, there's a couple of sheep or some goats, and you get to pet them. But we thought, what if there was a place where you gave people license and permission to create anything they wanted? So the Invisible Creatures Petting Zoo at the beginning of the day is empty, but by the end of the day, it's full of fantastical creatures. This picture was actually the very first day we did this, and it's evolved quite a bit since then. There's more like little cubbies for animals to live inside of. There's magical food they can eat. But even on this day, with its very simple, like here's a fence, and there's this ritual, and there's this bell you ring, and it's all explained on this paper. But even with this simple version of it, here's some of the things that people created just from their imaginations. This first one, Ginny made us Zooby Dooby the Gartox, and it's from Planet Potato. And here are 3 interesting things about this creature. She likes eating music, her favorite color is ultraviolet, and she never poops. Efficient. Okay, Jacob has made us a tiger squirrel from India. The tiger squirrel can change colors, he can jump from trees to clouds, and he only collects the happiest nuts. And I want to stress that this is not just kids, it's kids and adults doing this. We've had people who have drawn their desired life partner and written the qualities they're looking for, and then they go and they staple it to the wall, and they're like, it's like their way of summoning the person they're looking for, I suppose. And this next one actually is kind of one of my favorite ones. I almost cry sometimes when I see it. This is the listening horse. The listening horse comes from the clouds on a lonely day. The listening horse will listen, love, and let you know you're not alone. Yeah, I know. So that's just, when you give someone license and permission with no boundaries, this is what happens. If you said draw an animal and put it in the petting zoo, you'd probably get pictures of sheep and goats and cats and dogs, and maybe one listening horse occasionally. So the station is a place to sort of trigger your curiosity. And these simple little fun things are connected to the ideal. We want someone who's just like firmly planted in the middle of their circle to just maybe start nudging themselves like, well, I really thought that thrash metal was like just for like people who are like satanic and horrible, but those guys are teachers and they're actually friendly. And so they're just like on the edge and they're getting that cognitive dissonance thing, right? And that's great, because when you feel that confusion, that's when you have a chance to grow. When we feel confused, our brains actually kick in the survival instinct to go away from the new thing. It might eat us. But if you can sort of get yourself to push past that you actually grow just like the tree would be doing. So this last one is probably really hard to see, but this is definitely my favorite thing so far that anyone has ever drawn in the Invisible Creatures Petting Zoo. So one day I was doing something like running sound for a band or something busy, and this small adult child person came up to me, very concerned, to let me know there's a hole in the fence and that creatures were escaping. And I was like, okay, I'll be over there and deal with that in a minute. And so by the time I got over there, I hadn't come fast enough. And so they had drawn a piece of fence. So if you can't see it, this is a drawing, there's a fence. And then the kids stapled it to the wall with like a lot of staples, just to make sure we closed that gap in the fence and the creatures could not escape. And this is what it's all about. So this person saw a problem. They were curious how they could solve it. They used their imagination, and they did it. Okay? They just did it. So that's what we all need to do. Okay? Curiosity is not just for growing our individual selves, but it's so that we can become stronger as a collective. And a lot of problems are a lot harder to fix than drawing a piece of fence. But we have to start being brave enough to withstand social pressure or social norms and just do what we feel is right. And sometimes that means leaving your comfort zone to find out what's going on in the rest of the world. Because you are a tree, but you're not just a single tree all alone out there. You're actually a tree whose roots are interconnected with the roots of 8 billion other trees on this planet. And it is a scientific fact that trees communicate, and we communicate. We have to use curiosity to make the world a more kind, empathetic, and just place, not just make ourselves more interesting. Thank you.